What if the dream the world is chasing is actually a prison? And what if the key to understanding the last 5 years of royal chaos has been hiding in plain sight, spoken by a woman who has lived in the gilded cage her entire life? In a bombshell new interview, Lady Frederick Windsor, born Sophie Winkleman, has done the unthinkable. She has looked directly into the camera and described the reality of royal-adjacent fame with one brutal word: torture. This isn't an outsider's critique. This is a confession from within the walls. And with this one statement, she has handed us the key to deciphering the entire Sussex saga: the pain, the rebellion, and the desperate, multi-million-dollar escape to California. To understand the weight of this statement, you must understand the messenger. Sophie Winkleman is not a minor royal, but she is royal adjacent. She is married to Lord Frederick Windsor, the son of Prince and Princess Markle of Kent. She has a successful acting career, but she also walks the palace balconies. She lives in the space between the spotlight and the shadows, and she knows the rules of the game. She has enjoyed the privileges, but she has also paid the price. And in her recent, startlingly candid conversation with the Daily Mail, she pulled back the velvet curtain on the torture of losing her anonymity, the cruelty of the press, and the psychological toll of being a public commodity. She spoke of the pain of her daughter being photographed without consent, the feeling of being hunted, the loss of a fundamental human right, the right to be unobserved. And as she spoke, it became undeniably clear. She was not just describing her own life. She was writing the definitive footnote to the story of Harry and Meghan. The sound of a page turning, as if in a clinical case file. Listen to Lady Frederick's words, and then re-examine every pivotal moment of the Sussex exit. It's not a rebellion, it's a diagnosis. Lady Frederick on anonymity. It is torture. Harry and Meghan. Their entire argument for leaving the UK was based on the intrusive and dangerous press harassment, the inability to live a normal life. They didn't just want to leave the monarchy, they wanted to escape the relentless, unblinking eye of the camera. Lady Frederick on her daughter. I can't bear the idea of my little girl being photographed. Harry and Meghan. This is Harry's rawest nerve. The ghost of his mother, Diana, haunts his every move. For him, the torture wasn't just theoretical. It was a prophecy of a tragedy he believed would repeat itself with his wife and children if he stayed. Lady Frederick on the psychological toll. She describes a constant, low-grade anxiety. Harry and Meghan. Harry has spoken openly about the panic attacks and anxiety he suffered as a working royal. Meghan described feeling suicidal. What the institution saw as duty, they were experiencing as a form of psychological violence, a torture they were no longer willing to endure. In this light, their flight to California wasn't a greedy cash grab. It was a desperate course of treatment. It was them checking into a rehabilitation facility for the famously tortured. The sound of fine china clinking, then a subtle crack appearing. So why is Lady Frederick's confession so much more damaging than any criticism from an outsider? Because she is breaking the cardinal rule of the aristocracy: never complain. The never complain, never explain mandate is the glue that has held the monarchy together for centuries. It's a pact of silence. You accept the palaces and the titles, and in return, you never, ever publicly acknowledge the price you pay. You grin and bear the torture. By calling it torture, Lady Frederick has broken that pact. She has validated the central thesis of the Sussex Rebellion. She has confirmed, from inside the system, that Harry and Meghan weren't crazy. They weren't weak. They were simply unwilling to endure a life that a fellow royal insider openly describes as psychological torment. This creates an impossible dilemma for the palace. They cannot condemn her without looking heartless. They cannot agree with her without undermining the entire foundation of the duty above all ethos. So, they will say nothing. But the silence will be deafening. The sound of a cash register ringing, then the click of a camera shutter, but this time it sounds more controlled, more commercial. But here is the devastating irony that Harry and Meghan are now facing. In their flight from the torture of involuntary fame, they have run headfirst into the machinery of commercial fame. Lady Frederick's torture was inflicted upon her. The Sussexes, in California, have now chosen to monetize their trauma. They have sold their story to Netflix, to Spotify, to Penguin Random House. They have stepped onto a different, but equally demanding, hamster wheel. The question becomes, Is it better to be a captive of the crown or a prisoner of your own brand? Have they escaped the torture, or have they simply found a new warden? The paparazzi in LA may be more managed, but the pressure to remain relevant, to earn back those millions, to constantly feed the content beast, that is its own unique form of pressure. Lady Frederick's confession exposes the no-win situation. There is no true escape from their kind of fame. There are only different types of confinement. The Sussexes chose a cage of their own making, believing it would have more comfortable furniture. But a cage, by any other name, is still a cage. The camera shutter sound from the beginning returns, but slower, more melancholic. Ultimately, Lady Frederick Windsor has done the world an uncomfortable service. She has given us the vocabulary to understand this royal civil war not as a battle over titles or money, but as a conflict over the fundamental right to self. She has confirmed that the privilege, the palaces, and the titles come with a hidden invoice, payable in pieces of your soul. For some, like the Queen, that cost was a burden willingly borne for a lifetime. For others, like Lady Frederick, it's a burden quietly carried. And for Harry and Meghan, it was a price they refused to pay. One word, from one woman who has lived it. And in that one word, the entire fairy tale of royalty crumbles, revealing the stark, human truth that has been there all along. This confession changes the conversation. Were Harry and Meghan justified in their actions? Knowing this is how even those inside the system feel? Or does Lady Frederick's ability to endure it, without rebellion, make their exit seem like a failure of fortitude? The comments section is open for this difficult discussion. The conversation about fame and mental health is crucial. We have linked to mental health resources in the description for anyone who needs them.